burnout is 100% a work-related condition. Like for it to be true burnout, there has to be chronic work-related stress. And we know from longstanding research, there are 6 areas of work life that can potentially drive burnout. One of them being the nature of the community, another being injustice and fairness, as I mentioned, and also the values piece. That's the 6th area of work life, that if you're in a context where there's a mismatch between your values and things that are going on at work or the demands of your job. And as you mentioned, during the COVID experience, a lot of us we became much more in touch with our values, or our values shifted. And it's been extraordinary to watch, as someone who's been interested in mental health and burnout for a very long time, to suddenly see this seismic shift in our culture at workplaces where there's so much interest, but there's still a lot of flailing, right? Because it's a lot to like learn and absorb, and a lot that foundationally needs to be changed, both in how we think about work and how we treat ourselves and how we live, but also the way that organizations function.
Do you think, I can't remember if I read it in your book or something else that you referenced, which was burnout necessarily isn't workload. Burnout, I think, is those things that you've touched, which is your community, your values, and those pressures from your workplace, and
Yes.
how that impacts somebody.
Yes. I mean, workload is the number one issue. Like, out of the 6 areas of work life, workload is at, I don't know if they're particularly ranked in order of impact, but workload is absolutely a driver. In fact, part of the problem right now in this time in history post-COVID is that across all sectors that I work with, every single time I come into an organization, I'm hearing about the workloads. People are having to do more with less. So that is a big driver. And that's an obvious one that everyone can see, like, oh, I've got so much work to do, I'm burning out. But it's very much also these other more subtle and actually, in some ways, more modifiable factors. Like if you feel you have a lack of control, that's a driver. So what can you take control of? And also just when people don't feel recognized and appreciated, that's a huge driver. And that's something that we can easily shift, both in how we let ourselves receive appreciation and also how we create that kind of a culture. And then I talked about like the community dynamics, psychological safety is part of that, for example. Then the injustice piece and the values piece, though, that's the framework of, if we want to really, both as leaders and also within work environments, that awareness of all those elements and ways that we can support ourselves and dial into those to strengthen ourselves, but also to strengthen those around us. That's really that holistic understanding of burnout. And of course, how we take care of ourselves too. Like that's also a big part of it. It's a huge part of it, but it's not fundamentally our responsibility to prevent ourselves getting burned out. It's just part of the picture.